All right, guys, today we're going to finish up Mark chapter 4 in this incredible biography of the life of Jesus. And I want to start with this question. We're going to be talking about calming the storm. It's a pretty straightforward story. So the question is this, just so we can start thinking about it for our small groups or our discipling conversations. How do you react to fear? And that might seem like kind of a strange way to ask the question, but fear really is something that you react to. Technically, fear is an emotion that tunes us into safety. Anxiety is a reaction to that fear. So fear and anxiety are actually two different things. Fear is the base emotion, that automatic response, and anxiety is one of the possible reactions that you can have to fear. So maybe you've heard of it like this. You've got the fight, the flight, or the freeze response. But today I want to add one more response to the list, and that is the faith response. This is what we're going to be striving for as followers of Jesus, and this is kind of what Jesus' disciples in the story today, what they failed to accomplish. So let's turn to the text, Mark chapter 4, starting in verse 35. As evening came, Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's cross to the other side of the lake." So they took Jesus in the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm came up. High waves were breaking into the boat, and it began to fill with water. Now, storms on the Sea of Galilee could kick up really quickly and really fiercely, and that's what happened in this particular story. Now, most of us can't relate to that kind of a storm, but we can all relate to the storms that come at us in life, the trials in life. In fact, Peter says it like this: "These trials will show you that your faith is genuine." There's that faith response again. "It's being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials or storms, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world." So whether you're going through a storm right now in marriage or with your family, or some maybe financial issues or addiction or physical struggles or mental, emotional disorders, accidents, natural disasters, spiritual warfare, whatever it is, there are lots of ways that storms can kick up in our lives. And our response to those storms is what shows sort of where our faith stands at the moment. Now let's go back to the story. In verse 38 and 39, it says that Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat during all of this commotion with his head on a cushion. That's so interesting. The disciples woke him up and they were shouting at him, "Teacher, don't you care that we're going to drown?" They couldn't believe that he was peacefully sleeping through the storm, which really is a sermon in and of itself. Jesus provides a picture that probably we all want in the middle of the trials in our life. We want to be able to just be so at peace that we can sleep through it. Anyway, verse 39, when Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, "Silence, be still." And suddenly the wind stopped and there was a great calm. Now put a pin in this, because this isn't the first time in the Bible that God said, "Be still." We'll look at that other verse a little bit later. But the point for right now is that Jesus is showing his disciples that he has authority even over the wind and the waves, and it reminds us of this passage in Psalm 107. It says there that some went off to sea in ships, plying the trade routes of the world. They too observed the Lord's power in action, his impressive works on the deepest seas. He calmed the storm to a whisper and stilled the waves. Let them praise the Lord for his great love. So it turns out that this psalm is a foreshadowing of what Jesus would do with his very disciples in the boat. Okay, back to the Gospel of Mark, and there are just a couple more verses in this story. Jesus turned to his disciples and he asked them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" And it's interesting how this passage ends. It says that the disciples were absolutely terrified. But look, they're not afraid anymore of the seas because they're calm now. They're actually afraid of what they're learning about Jesus. They said, "Who is this man? Even the winds and waves obey him." Think about it from their perspective. So far in the Gospel of Mark, we've seen the miraculous power of Jesus in several ways. But this is the first nature miracle, the first water miracle that Jesus performs. They're really starting to piece together who Jesus really is. Remember, Jesus is God. So it reminds us of Psalm 46, verses 1 through 3. It says there that God is our refuge and strength, always ready to help in times of trouble. So we will not fear when earthquakes come and the mountains crumble into the sea. Let the oceans roar and foam. Let the mountains tremble as the waters surge. Why? Why do we not have to fear nature itself? It's because God is our refuge and strength. And all of this leads to the famous verse number 10. And this is God speaking. He says this, "Be still and know that I am God." And these are the words that Jesus echoed in the boat with his disciples that day. Now, Jesus wasn't speaking to his disciples. He was speaking to the wind and the waves. But the message is really one that many of us need to hear. Be still. If the wind and waves obey Jesus, how much more should we obey him when he says, it's going to be okay. You can trust me because I am God. One more verse, Isaiah 41:10. God says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And that phrase, fear not, essentially shows up 365 times in the Bible, one time for every day of the year. So let's return to the question we started with at the beginning. How do you react to fear? Fight, flight, freeze, or faith?